Namaskar, dear viewers. Today we'll be discussing the topic climate literacy. We know fully well that climate change threatens human existence. In the past century, if you see, the average surface air temperature has risen by 1.1 degrees centigrade. And it is reported that by the year 2030, the average surface air temperature may cross 1.5 degrees centigrade by the turn of this decade itself. So it's a very significant issue in front of us. So to address the climate change, the impacts, we need to educate the people, we need to build certain capacity, and also we need to take steps possible so that the people or community themselves, they can cope up with the stress. So in this regard, this topic, climate literacy, is very significant for not only our country, for everywhere. Across the globe, this issue of climate literacy is very important. That is the reason why United Nations time and again has taken steps to propagate, to make aware about the issues of climate change and to make the people literate, climate literate. So, if you see the issue of climate change, not only that the surface air temperature is increasing, along with that thing, if you look at the impacts on every ecosystem, the natural ecosystem, the man-made ecosystem, all the ecosystems are affected. Not only that thing, even the existence of living organisms, they are threatened. That is the reason why we are stating that we are in the era of sixth mass extinction. The kind of extinction among the living organisms, if you see, it is so rapid and it is definitely irreversible. So in this regard, we need to take all the steps possible to reduce the impact of climate change. Third important aspect as far as the emergency is concerned, climate emergency is concerned, it is going to, affect us, kind of impede us or challenge our growth towards sustainable development. So by the year 2030, we have our own goals, sustainable development goals. We kept it for ourselves in terms of poverty eradication, hunger, removal of hunger, or in many ways, if you see, there are 17 goals. Those goals, it's very difficult to achieve in the presence of climate change. So this era is about climate change, climate emergency. So to address this issue of climate emergency, what steps we need to take? The first and foremost important step is that we need to educate. And that is the topic of today's discussion. So when you talk about climate literacy, there are certain key parameters are there as far as climate literacy is concerned. First is the literate, climate literate should understand the basic nuances of climate system. The second important aspect is that what are the major causes of climate change, whether the human beings are involved or natural causes. Definitely there are many natural causes are there for climate change. But if you see, the predominance of human action is responsible for the modern day climate change. Third important aspect as far as climate literacy is concerned, the literate, climate literate should be well informed so that he can take an informed decision. Only when he is taking informed decision, we can, or the concerned individual may be taking a responsible action, just action, because we need to talk about the social equity, climate justice, environmental justice. So these three are the important concept of climate literacy. So the bottom line of climate literacy is the knowledge, the skill and attitude. These three, knowledge, skill and attitude, how well we can inculcate with the students or with the common public. So that is a key issue that we need to take into account. Definitely there are certain strategies are there, certain principles are involved in climate literacy. So we'll be discussing one by one. So to state that a climate literate should be, looked upon through the lens of knowledge, skill and attitude is very, very important. As regards the climate literacy, the components, when you talk about the components, there are key components are there. Basically, if you look at it, it is talking about the science part of climate change and the education part of it and the engagement. When you talk about engagement, it is public engagement. So these three are important components. However, before discussing in depth the components of climate literacy, we need to talk about the principles involved in climate literacy. The first and foremost principle involved in climate literacy is the climate system. Understanding the climate system, the nitty-gritties of it, and what exactly it is. When I say what exactly it is, the climate system is basically an integrated component, a system wherein interaction is taking place between the atmosphere, hydrosphere, cryosphere, the biosphere as well. So this kind of interaction that is taking place between these components of the climate system, that is resulting in the climate. That's the final product. So this climate system, the interaction is very, very important for the people to understand. Only when they understand the interaction, they will be in a better position, or they will be well equipped to they understand the reasons for climate change and what practical steps that they can take to address the issue of climate change. So that is the first principle of climate literacy. Not only climate system, we need to understand the causes of climate change. When you talk about causes of climate change, as I said earlier, there is definitely the dominance of the human action that is there, that has been well observed in the recent past. Particularly, the human beings are responsible for causing climate change. And the third important aspect as far as the science of climate change is concerned is that if you see not only the interaction between the components of climate system, and also we have come across the human actions, how it is responsible, and related aspect is the impacts of climate change. When you talk about the impacts of climate change, because as I said earlier, the climate change is going to affect every ecosystem possible, every organism, irrespective of the place of their existence, the cardinal, the environment, the optimum temperature, or the niche environment, irrespective of everything, the organisms are affected because of climate change. So we need to educate the people how those organisms are impacted, or in other words, how a system, urban system or a rural system or an industrial system, even the economic system also, so the cultural system, social system, even the financial part of it, the financial system, economy also. So all the system as such, it is affected because of climate change. So the climate literate should understand the basic features of climate change, including the mechanism, including the impacts of climate change. That is the first principle. When you talk about the second principle, that is the more significant indeed, because that is talking about the information. Information, definitely information is a key for our understanding, to make ourselves well equipped with the basic mechanisms of climate change, and also in what ways better we can adapt or address the issue of climate change. So this information should be credible. Whatever the climate related information, the data point, the model output, everything should be credible. When I say credible, it should be scientifically proved, statistically significant. And this credible information, if it is in the normal public domain, the climate literate must understand where to locate the information, climate related information. The second point, not only locating the information, you should understand what is the pattern, what is the trend involved in it. So whether that information is correct or not, wrong, or credit worthy. So these things the literate should understand. And third important thing is that only when the information is credible, the climate literate will be in a position to make an informed decision. When I say informed decision, it is a very, very significant aspect. Only when we are convinced ourselves that the change that is happening around us is real, and it is going to harm not only our generation, it is going to harm the future generation, and also all the living organisms for that matter. So in that regard, to make an informed decision, the literate should be well versed with the mechanisms, not only the mechanism of climate change, even the model output and every aspect of climate, the change, that should be, incorporated in the curriculum as well. That is the most important aspect. So in order to make an informed decision, so definitely the literate will be educated, they will be provided with enough information, educational material or curriculum development, even the professional training as well. So these kind of information, the credible information, will make the individual to take appropriate and responsible action. Because when we talk about an action, climate action, the Sustainable Development Goal 13 talks about climate action. That action should be just in nature, and it should involve the aspect of social equity, and it should be not only the climate justice, environmental justice has to be there, and the most important aspect is that the governance aspect. The governance, I mean the inclusive governance. Even the marginalized community, the marginalized society, the region as well. So everything should be involved or brought into the mainstream. So this is the key aspect of the principles. That's what you call that, the credible information. That's the key aspect that we need to take into account. Next principle is not only that we are being taught, the climate literate will be having enough information, a knowledge aspect they're having it, and they must have certain skills to communicate. When you talk about the skills to communicate, the communication should be effective in nature. When I say effective in nature, their communication should be very objective, and they should be convinced. And not only that thing, they should have the power. Only when they have the knowledge, they will be having the power to communicate effectively. When I say effectively, they should bring a social change among the people and the community as well. So that is a key aspect that we need to take into account, because what we are talking about is that not only the individual education, we wanted to bring in a change in the community. We wanted to adapt the community to the changing climatic condition. So to put it in a very simplistic term, community resilience, social resilience is the key aspect of climate literacy. And that is the key bottom line of third principle, the effective communication. The next principle is that when you talk about the next principle, particularly when you talk along with the communication, everything, so there is an involvement of curriculum. When I say involvement of curriculum, educational curriculum, so when we need to start to make the climate literacy a significant aspect in the day-to-day activities, we wanted to bring in the change from the school curriculum. So in the school curriculum, so we need to incorporate certain aspects of climate change, not only exclusively. Understood. It should be incorporated in all the subjects possible. The science subject, the geography subject, even the English language. So in all the subjects, it has to be tailor-made so that the students at the very young level, they will be educated on the different aspects of climate change. So in a way, this kind of dispersion, or this kind of incorporating the climate-related information in various subjects makes it an important point. That is, this climate information is multidisciplinary in nature, and it is interdisciplinary in nature. So in that way, what happened, the students will be getting a lot of benefit, because they will be looking at the issue of climate change from different angles, different lenses. So in that way, what happened, their understanding and their approach towards climate change will be very, very significant. And also, it will be reducing the stress on the teachers as well. When I say teachers stress, because not exclusively they'll be talking about climate change in a subject. So they'll be talking in a different subjects. So in a way, the stress on the teachers, that also be reduced, and there is a possibility enough elbow space is given to the teachers to be innovative. They can have certain energy audit in the classroom, or even the on-campus, some kind of sustainability activity. They can go for it. Even the simple exercise, day-to-day activities, even what you call that, the gardening, that also can be helpful for inculcate the habit of climate responsiveness. So that is another principle that is involved as far as the educational dynamics is concerned. When I say educational dynamics, because this climate change is fast evolving, and it is a robust science. So what we speak today down the line, it will be different. Not only different, it will be more advanced in nature. So in order to meet that need, the educational curriculum also should be fine-tuned, should be tailor-made to the need of the hour. So that is the next principle involved in climate literacy. So as I talked about the education curriculum, I just talked about the interdisciplinarity or multidisciplinarity involved in climate literacy. So here, not only the physical sciences or natural sciences, there is a need for incorporating or integrating the social science as well. So only when you have an integration between the social sciences and the physical and natural sciences, the end goal of climate literacy can be achieved. When I say end goal of climate literacy, we wanted to bring in a change in the community. We wanted to adapt the community towards the impacts of climate change, and also we aspire to have a community resilience. And that will be possible only we make it certain the delivery of climate information should be multidisciplinary in nature. Okay, and also when you talk about the impacts of climate change, it's not only the individual impact. The impact should be looked at in a holistic way. When I say holistic way, the society itself is impacted. When I say society, the stratification in the society has to be taken into account. Even the certain communities or certain group of, section of the society are more vulnerable, particularly the marginalized section. So in that way, the social sciences can have a very important role to play in delivering the climate information and to make the things possible as well. And next principle when you talk about is that, when you talk about the impact of climate change, the most significant and the tangible impact is on the human health. When you talk about the human health, just a moment. When you talk about the human health, see, there is a lot of, the interaction is very complex. The complex interaction between the climate change and human health and mental health as well. So this interaction we need to take into account. Because why? Because only when we know the interaction, the effect, the impacts like the spread of vector-borne diseases, heat-related ailments, heat strokes, heart attacks. So all are product of climate change. So when we understand the interaction between climate change and human health, we will be in a position to educate the common public. We will be equipping the medical practitioners as well. We can equip them to address the emergencies. Definitely ecological grief, climate related problems are there. It's quite common nowadays. So in order to do this thing, the interaction between the climate change and human health should be substantially, researched properly and studied properly, and the output of that particular research should be taken forward to the common public and also the public or the medical practitioners also, because their role is more significant, because the impact is more prominent nowadays, particularly the heat strokes, the heat extremes. The impact is very, very common in the urban areas, and not only in urban areas, everywhere we can see it. Particularly the developing countries, they are facing a lot of problem, definitely because of the socio-economic background or the economic status. So that is terribly affecting them. So these are basically, when you talk about, these are the principles involved in climate literacy. So having said the different principles, we need to talk about the components of climate literacy. When you talk about the components of climate literacy, the first and foremost component is the climate system as well. Because the climate system, the interaction of it, the climate change, the climate variability, and the anthropogenic causes of climate change, this will be a significant component of climate literacy. Okay. The second important component is, as I already told about, the curriculum development, because educational curriculum development, whether at the school level or the college level, so that should be fine-tuned, or in other words, to put it frankly, it should meet the need of the hour. When I say need of the hour, the recent developments that is taking place in the climate science, the impact studies, the assessment studies, all should be incorporated in the curriculum. So not only that thing, not only involving incorporating that particular thing in the curriculum, the teachers themselves should be trained. So for that only, definitely a lot of materials in the public domain. UNESCO, United Nations are having a lot of materials in the public domain. Those materials can be used as a resource for the teachers training purpose. So in that way, what happened? The teachers also will be motivated and to teach the students in a practical way, because definitely whatever we teach, whether it's from the book or what are the media we are having it, the most significant aspect is the attitudinal change. So when I talked about climate literacy, knowledge, skill and attitudinal change is required. To bring in attitudinal change, we need to have hands-on training. And for that, the teachers should be trained, motivated, and should definitely a lot of incentives should be provided to the teachers. So this is the second component of climate literacy. The third and the most significant component of climate literacy is the engagement. When I talk about engagement, the engagement of the people, the community themselves should be engaged in this the very noble cause. When I say noble cause, because the problem is in front of us. To address that problem, definitely we need to have a community participation. The research also has to be done in significantly. And also, if you see, there are a lot of projects are there. So those projects should involve the people. The community should be involved. And also, as I said, that the inclusive approach should be adopted. And these are the three important components of climate literacy. Going further, if you see, definitely it's a very noble cause, but still there are certain challenges. The most important challenge as far as climate literacy is concerned is the skepticism, misinformation. Skepticism means that the people are skeptical whether there is a change in climate, what is causing climate change. A lot of skepticism is involved, and this barrier has to be removed by scientific ways, through convincing the people, and of course through climate literacy. This is a key aspect that we are observing as far as in climate change education as well. Next is that when you talk about the challenges, we need to discuss the emerging issues in climate literacy. When you talk about climate literacy, the emerging issues, the most significant thing is the interaction between climate and health literacy. Because as I said that both are to be integrated. When I say both are to be integrated, the main reason is that the major impact that we are observing is, as far as the human beings are concerned, health impacts. So definitely the people, they should be literate both, not only in the climate aspect, health aspect also. So this is a key area that we need to focus in coming days. Because definitely when I talk about the emerging areas, I'm talking about a kind of a change, sea change, from passing on the basic science information towards the changing the attitude, behavioral changes. I'm just trying to talk about a step far away from the basic science. When I say away from the basic science, what we need is then actionable points. We need practical solutions. As I said earlier, there is climate change impact is around the corner. So to address this issue, we need to be more practical oriented. We should be more responsive, and also we should provide enough incentives for the people to make them understand to take the steps forward. So that is the key aspect of the emerging areas, the focus areas. The second important aspect as far as the future is concerned in climate literacy is the green careers, the opportunities, job opportunities in climate literacy. So definitely there are a lot of opportunities are there in this thing, because we are in the era of artificial intelligence. We need to integrate the aspect of artificial intelligence, environmental intelligence and data science, so that the climate literate will have hybrid skills, not only individual skills. You'll be having hybrid skills, having knowledge of all the intelligence, artificial intelligence or environmental intelligence. So that will make them job perfect. When I say job perfect, they'll have a lot of opportunities in different sectors, whether whatever sector we are talking about, because every sector is going to be impacted by climate change. whether it's an agriculture sector or the finance sector, industrial sector, every sector is going to be impacted by climate change. So as regards the what you call that opportunities are concerned for the climate literate is that they should be, definitely they should be having known the principles of sustainability. They should be well versed with their environmental, social, and governance principles. Understood. So all is part of this climate literacy. So this will help them, as far as the job opportunities are concerned. Definitely, there are a lot of, benefits are there. The third important aspect is that even the location space based learning, because a farmer, as far as we wanted to teach the climate related information to the farmers, they will be focusing on the carbon sequestration, carbon farming, and other ways, so that they will be reducing the carbon footprint. And as far as the students are concerned, the gardening, watershed management, and many more things. Even the mind games also will be very, very helpful. So, to sum it up, today we have discussed a very important topic, climate literacy. We have discussed the need for climate literacy and the principles involved in what exactly climate literacy is. That we have talked about the different principles, and also we talked about the components of climate literacy. The most important thing is that we need to build in kind of a resilience, climate resilience among the community, so that the future is sustainable. Thank you very much.